We don't have anyone to address the commission tonight. We'll call the meeting to order. We have a couple of presentations tonight. I'm going to step over here to the other microphone for the first one. I don't know where it is. Thank you, Shelley. If I could have Miss Missy Davis come forward, please. As Missy's making her way over here, Missy insisted that we not do anything to recognize her tonight. And so you can see this is probably the one time since I've been mayor I didn't listen to her. Most of the time, my wife says I'm really bossy, but those of you who work with Missy will understand that she's probably got me beat in that category. I'm just kidding, Missy. We do have we did have a picture that we wanted to share, but our technology wouldn't allow us to do it, so we won't do that. But Missy, I have a proclamation for you. It's a proclamation by the county mayor. Whereas Jane E. Missy Davis and her husband Ed reside in Montgomery County, Tennessee. They have 2 daughters, Amy and Stacy, and 2 grandchildren, a boy, Davis, and a girl, Sydney. And whereas Missy is a graduate of Clarksville High School and completed her Bachelor of Science in Health and Physical Education at Austin Peay State University in 1976 and was certified to teach. And whereas Missy began her 34-year career with Montgomery County on March 16, 1987, as office manager in the personnel department. In October 1987, she transferred to the purchasing department as assistant purchasing agent. And whereas Missy was promoted and appointed as purchasing agent on January 11, 1994. Whereas Missy retires on March 3rd, 2021, having been a dedicated employee committed to public service. Her purchasing knowledge and expertise have been valuable assets, and Montgomery County is fortunate to have had her as one of its most outstanding employees. Whereas we hope Missy will enjoy her retirement years doing what she loves most, enjoying her grandchildren, reading, spending time at the lake and beach, her dog Baxter, and sipping her favorite beverage, Diet Mountain Dew. She will certainly be missed by her friends and coworkers. Now, therefore, I, Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, Tennessee, and on behalf of the citizens of this county, do hereby show appreciation to Missy Davis for 34 years of loyal and dedicated service to Montgomery County. And Missy, we hope that your retirement years are filled with nothing but joy, happiness, and good health. We're going to miss you, and we love you.
Thank you so much.
You say anything?
Not really.
Look, it'll get down here. Just say it.
Oh, only him. Thank you very much. I have thoroughly enjoyed my 34 years here with Montgomery County. It has, Jerry Albert, it has been, I've thoroughly enjoyed my job, or I wouldn't have stayed here as long as I've stayed. Everybody's been wonderful for me. I can't thank Mayor Dirt. He has been one fantastic mayor to have and to work for. And also Kyle Johnson as the chief of staff. Couldn't ask for someone better. Jeff Taylor. Everybody here. I could not ask for anything more. I do appreciate it very much. I'm so happy my family is here. And I do think my daughter and son-in-law in Florida are watching live stream. So I think they've made a toast to this also. So everybody is here that I love so dearly and can't wait to spend more time with them. But thank you all very much. It's a wonderful place to work. I've enjoyed it. And, oh, you're looking, oh, thanks a lot, Loretta. And there she was, many years ago. But thank you all very much. I've enjoyed it, and bless you all.
Missy, we love you.
Oh, thank you so much. I love you. You did fantastic. I love you. Thank you. That's Stephanie. That's Stephanie. That's just Stephanie.
Missy. We have a hotel motel tax update. Ms. Wiggins, our trustee, there you are. Good evening.
Good evening. Shelley gave me orders to move over here. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and County Commissioners. As committed, we are here for the quarterly hotel motel audit update that is completed by Stone, Rudolph, and Henry. And then, of course, the preparation for this meeting happens through our Chief Deputy, Sydney Green, and Mary Scott, our accountant. And we're making sure that our hotels and motels are accounting for and reporting all revenues that are owed to Montgomery County. Now I'll turn it over to Ben Carroll, who will give you the update from Stone, Rudolph, and Henry.
Good evening. During the most recent quarter, we had selected 11 hotels and motels to test for compliance with the hotel motel tax. Of the 10 hotels, or of the 11 we selected, 10 were tested and one was carried over to the future quarter. They did not provide their information at the time we needed to complete the testing. Of those 10, 5 had 0 findings, so there's in full compliance. I think this was the most we've had in any quarter up to date. Overall, overpayments totaled about $351, underpayments $366. And so I think in total, this was the best quarter we've had to date. And I believe this was the 7th quarter that we've tested. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ben. So as Ben said, we had 5 who had no findings, 4 who overpaid, 1 that underpaid, and their deadline is March 20th. So the one that underpaid, it's $1,500, but we will accommodate and make sure they are able to take that. And there's one that has not paid. I'm sorry, the total is $1,582, and we've sent them a certified letter to collect that. We talked about this in December, but I wanted to bring it back to you that the governor had signed into law a bill that said that anyone who does business, the short-term rental companies, that they will comply with submitting those funds to the Department of Revenue. That started January 1. We will receive our first payment around the 19th of March, so I'll look forward to seeing what that looks like to share with you. We did have our Zoom meeting. We know that we had a wave of COVID again, so we had to go to Zoom instead of having it at Civic Hall. We did have several participants. Now that they better understand how we function and we understand their software, we were able to answer some of their questions and make sure that, again, we're just working together to make the process as smoothly as possible to report income. And as we did last quarter, just sharing with you where we are in revenues year over year to see what has the pandemic and this economic downturn done to us. We've seen about $1 million loss from 19 to 20, but I just want to keep it before you. I know you get this in your packet, but you get a lot of information. And lastly, we just want to make sure we're following the Private Act of 1979.
Any questions? Ms. Wiggins? Ms. Wiggins, thank you. I know, also want to just thank you. I know, I think the whole month of February, your office has worked Saturdays, and I know y'all have been extremely busy. I'm sure you were extremely busy today as well, as you and I have traded a couple emails, but thank you and your staff for what you do.
We actually owe the public one more Saturday, so we will be open this Saturday since we were closed on the 20th. But thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. We'll now go into our zoning resolution, CZ01 2021, resolution amending the zoning resolution of Montgomery County, Tennessee, as it pertains to driveways, private roads, and easement specifications in guest hotels. Mr. Tyndall?
Yeah, only about 2 or 3 slides tonight. Very briefly, we had deferred all current zoning cases at the Planning Commission this month. Due to the weather, we were not able to get signs out. That would have been the week, that Monday, Tuesday, that signs would have gone up on property. They didn't get out till the following Monday, so we made the decision to defer all those cases. There was only 2 that were going to be heard this month, so we'll carry them to next month. We do have 2 cases tonight, or 1 case from the Planning Commission and 1 resolution sponsored by us. First one tonight is CZO 1-2021. This is a change to the text of the zoning resolution. You've seen a couple of these over the last 2 years. This one is a bit of a catch-all one. It makes several different changes. I'll outline them. You see the ordinance in front of you. Simultaneously, we've been working at the Planning Commission on updating some subdivision regulations which get approved just by the Planning Commission. And sometimes we have to update the definitions and some of the mechanics in the zoning resolution or zoning ordinance in the city to make sure that both documents comply with each other. So we've added the 3 definitions you see there for easement, residential common access drive, and shared driveway. We've also updated the definition for usable road frontage. This all goes hand in glove with some work that's being done in the subdivision regulations to provide for easements that supply 3 to 10 lots less than 750 feet in the county an opportunity to plat and at least build a minimum spec road, so we're not just building driveways. And as some of you would have heard in the past, this was kind of called the flag lot problem. We're hoping that at least we'll get these roads built up to a minimum standard so they don't become a burden on the property owners, and that the lots will be platted more properly for emergency services if they do choose that method of rural development. We also hope it'll cut down on the amount of land being wasted because you won't have to flag lot the lots as much. You will be able to use the easements instead of flagging them. So all in all, I think it's a step in the right direction. We'll monitor it, see how it goes, and adjust accordingly. Another one of the items that we added into this after talking to the code department is something that the city has and has always had in their zoning ordinance, which is guest houses on property. So this is a secondary house on your property. It's hooked up to the same utilities as the main house, has the same address, but it's intended for guests or family members. This year, we've seen a very big uptick at both the code department and the planning commission with people asking about these because of COVID. A lot of folks are interested in either moving onto their parents' property permanently or temporarily, or having their parents move onto their property and avoid having to go into a nursing home or a care facility where a lot of the COVID has been pretty rampant here this year. What happens in the county, unfortunately, is what we call a workaround. People go in and will permit either a garage, a pool house, or something else, and then turn it into a guest house. Well, that's not really what the rules for pools and garages are for, pool houses and garages. So we worked with the code department to look at the city ordinance and model it after that with a few changes to allow for guest houses in the county to be built on the same property. It would be permitted upon conditions. So if you meet the conditions and you go to the code department, you can pull a permit, and you can see the conditions there halfway down page 2 under 5.1.7.4. You must have a minimum of 5 acres. You have 1 guest house per parcel, regardless of the size of that parcel. The guest house shall be an accessory use, which means secondary to the primary dwelling unit. The guest house must meet the primary setbacks, so you don't get the benefit, and that's something in the city you do get the benefit of being down to 5 or 10 feet on the side. This would still, because it's 5 acres, we felt that the primary setbacks, which would have been 40 or 20 feet, should still hold for that secondary unit. Only one meter per utility, that's water, sewer, electric. You may need multiple septic systems though, and obviously you'd have to go through groundwater for that. Building and code department shall approve the floor plan. You must have the adequate off-street parking on 5 acres. I hope you would. The guest house must be occupied by guests of the primary dwelling units or family members and shall not be rented or offered for rent. The county also does at a 10-acre level right now, they have what's called a caretaker premise, but it requires 10 acres plus. So we thought that by lowering it to 5 acres, at least opens up that opportunity. And as you can see further up in page 2, it's allowed in those zones under number 4 up there, ag through R1A. Another item we noticed when we were talking to the code department here is that in most residential zones, the accessory unit height was set at 20 feet. And it's pretty common almost everywhere I've seen that 25 feet high, which is 2 stories, is sort of the norm there. So they requested that we change it in the use table under 412, 413, and 414 from 20 feet to 25 feet. And then finally, this needs to be codified, and we should take in the next opportunity to put this in the code. But the Board of Zoning Appeals, which meets monthly to interpret the zoning resolution through the code department, from time to time, they're asked to look at different types of uses. And we had an opportunity back in November. They reviewed someone who wanted to do a blacksmith operation on an acre-and-a-half piece of ag property in Woodlawn for PTSD and first responders and military members as a form of counseling. Go out and you forge your own knife or sword, and then as you're doing it, you're bonding with and talking to your mentor or your counselor. This was going to be a small-scale operation, very classic blacksmithing on an anvil and in the fire and in the coals. The only definition that we had in the code at the time was for a forge, which was more of a large-scale forge, like you would think the Clarksville Foundry. So they took that opportunity to talk about it, where would it be appropriate, and they came up with a term called agricultural therapeutic uses. And on page 3, you'll see those definitions there. Again, since this was done by the Board of Zoning Appeals, I encourage you not to amend this portion of it since it was determined by that quasi-judicial group. But they defined agricultural therapeutic uses. It's permitted upon review, which means that the Board of Zoning Appeals needs to approve it by the board in ag, or if it's ag commercial, it's permitted. Minimum 1.5 acres, you must apply to the Board of Zoning Appeals and present a basic site plan. So those were the conditions they felt, and then they will take it on a case-by-case basis. So really, again, to recap, 4 major points in that overview section where we're updating some definitions, the guest houses, the height, and then the agricultural therapeutic uses. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on these.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall regarding CZO 1 2021? See if anybody queues up. Nobody? No questions? Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. We'll now go into public hearing to hear any comments related to CZO 1 2021. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on behalf of this resolution or this case? Anyone to speak on behalf? Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZO 1 2021? Anyone to speak in opposition? All right, we'll now close the public hearing. On to our resolutions. Our first resolution is Resolution 2131, resolution updating established rules, regulations, and specifications for development of private easements. Is there, Mr. Tyndall, I think you've got a couple of slides you want to share on this.
Well, this is not necessarily, this did not come from the Planning Commission. We are the sponsor of this because this does impact, as I mentioned earlier, the changes we're making on the subdivision regulations. Back in 1994, as you can see in that smaller text under TCA 133411, I'll be happy to email this out to the group through Shelley tomorrow so you can read that. But it was under the prerequisites for issuing a building permit, and one of the sections said that the lot must front upon a permanent easement which conforms with all rules, regulations, and specifications applicable to permanent easements, yada, yada, as down to where it says the resolution must be adopted by the county legislative body by a 2/3 vote. And then that permanent easement accesses an existing highway, street, or thoroughfare, which is accepted by the county legislative body. So this was something that the state does from time to time. Well, they'll say counties or cities, you have to do this within this calendar year or 18 months. And the county at that time in 1994 decided to just take the rules that were in the subdivision regulations and codify them into that resolution. And I included that resolution in your packets for you to see, that 94 resolution. What in essence that did, though, is it locked all future easements from that point forward having to follow Schedule A, which was attached. And since Schedule A was adopted, there have been many changes to the subdivision regulations as well as the county road specifications that the subdivision regulations have continued to march on, and this was only brought to our attention in the last year, this resolution. Theoretically, if a developer came in under these old rules and handed it to us, we would have had to accept it. They don't meet our current rules, and we're asking you to amend or repeal and replace, I guess is the language we've used, to replace 9481 with 2131, which says the same language up front, but removes the schedule in the back, and it says refer to the current subdivision regulations. We already have all the topics when it comes to curve, pavement, width, drainage. That's all in our subdivision regulations. And this would make it easier, and I tried to put a comparison chart so you could kind of see what each of them does independently. So happy to answer any questions. I know this one's a bit technical. This one does require a 2/3 vote to pass, but it would just kick the regulations for the specifications on how you build a private easement over to what the subdivision regulations say, which makes it easier to change with the times and amend instead of having to come back and get a 2/3 vote every time you change those engineering specifications.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall on 2131? Seeing none, thank you, Jeff. Commissioners, without objection, that's not starred as a consent agenda item, but without objection, we'll place that on the consent agenda as well. 2132 is a resolution to establish and update occupational safety and health program plan, devise rules and regulations, and to provide for a safety director and the implementation of such program plan. Any questions on 2132? That item is also set for the consent agenda. Resolution 2133, resolution of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners approving amendments to the 2021 school budget. Commissioners, this is all related to transportation, or really to taking some fuel tanks and putting them above ground that's being required. I know Ms. Demarest is here. Any questions on 2133? Commissioner Knight?
This doesn't have anything to do with pay increases or any of that?
No, sir. It's all related to fuel tanks, moving some money around.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. That item is also set for the consent agenda. Resolution 2134 is a resolution to execute interlocal agreement by and between the Clarksville-Montgomery County Industrial Development Board and Montgomery County, Tennessee regarding proceeds from sales of land held in trust by the Industrial Development Board on behalf of Montgomery County, Tennessee. Any questions regarding 2134? Commissioner Leverett?
Yes, Mayor, I also want to know is, will this change the organizational structure of the IDB?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding 2134? 2135, resolution to process the execution of a franchise agreement between Montgomery County and Cumberland Connect, a Tennessee corporation. Any questions regarding this one? Commissioners, if you recall, this was before us and we pulled it. Mr. Harvey went back and has free cable now provided to all of our school systems out in the county. So we thank Mr. Harvey for his diligence in that. Any questions? That item is also set for the consent agenda. Resolution 2136, resolution to approve the planting of a commemorative tree on the courthouse lawn. Any questions regarding 2136? 2137 is a commemorative resolution that we'll present to you next Monday night. 2138 is a resolution to form a study committee to consider the feasibility of conversion of Montgomery County to an alternative financial management system. Any questions regarding 2138? Commissioner Leverett?
Yes, can you go into further detail with this, Mayor, please?
Well, I think the purpose of this is to create a study committee to look at the feasibility of Montgomery County possibly moving away from the 1957 Financial Act to potentially the 1981 Act, or potentially a private act as it relates to our financial management system. Currently, under the 57 Act, the school system has a separate purchasing department, a separate accounting. The 81 Act merges all that together. A private act could do basically whatever this committee, really whatever this body voted on and the legislature approved if it got to that point. That answer your question?
Yeah, so this is just to do the study. This is not to make any changes right now.
No, ma'am. It's just creating a study that will bring a recommendation back to this body.
Thank you.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes, Mayor, you very eloquently described everything that I was going to pretty much describe.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. But let me add also that it provides autonomy to us when it comes to the budget as it's associated with the schools. Not only that, but it's in accordance with TCA 5-21-101. And under the current financial management system, which is antiquated, we have really no oversight. With this, the 1981 Financial Management Act, or a private act, we will have full autonomy and input as it relates to that particular budget. We owe it to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding 2138? Seeing none, Commissioners, if you'll look under, we have no old business. If you'll look under our reports for approval, we have our minutes, county clerk's report. We do have one county mayor nomination. That's a judicial commissioner, Mr. Joe Papa, I can never say his name. Thank you. Part-time nominated to serve another one-year term to expire March of 2022. Those three items will be on the consent agenda without objection. You can see under your reports filed, the reports that are there. And then one announcement, the County's United Way campaign ends on March 5th. We've left pledge forms and brochures at your seating area, and for those who would like to personally contribute to the campaign. And if you have any questions about those contributions, Ms. Michelle Newell's right over here. You can see her after the meeting. Any other business questions? Sir? We'll stand adjourned. Thank y'all.